A tweet from Black Lives Matter Chicago that is going viral, since been deleted. It's an image of a paraglider with a Palestinian flag, and they tweeted, "That is all, that is it." The image says, "I stand with Palestine." Understanding the context is actually quite simple. Community Notes on Twitter gives us the information saying October 7th, 2023, Hamas terrorists attacked a music festival full of civilians without warning. They killed at least 260 and kidnapped an unknown number. They are not known for paragliding in other circumstances, so this post implies support of their activities. That's right, my friends. BLM Chicago's Twitter account. I don't know how many. Let's see how many. Are they very big? 60,000 followers. Overtly supporting the attack on civilians. And it's a wake-up call. A lot of people are now waking up to the news that the far left you supported are extremists, are violent, are terrorists. This, my friends, I think is a major shift in the culture war, and it is going to be brutal for Democrats. No question. How many Democrats will now have to back away and reject the squad? AOC saw the writing on the wall. She tried playing to both sides on this one, saying Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, it's all bad. Targeting of civilians is bad. Yeah, I think AOC is the next Pelosi. Max Blumenthal said the next Obama. Wow. End Wokeness tweeted two images from David Weissman. And I have tremendous respect for David for this. I do. I really do. He says on May 4th, 2021, "I will never stop saying Black Lives Matter and may even get a shirt myself." And then on October 10th, just yesterday, he said, "F them. Maybe the right was right about Black Lives Matter." It's a wake-up call because BLM, we're not talking about them saying the people of Palestine have been oppressed in an open-air prison and Israel are oppressors. No. They're outright saying this operation, which was terror, not military. And I'll stress this. I'll defer to Max Blumenthal to formulate my opinion. His opinion reserved for him. But he said, initially, while the Palestinians, Hamas, were targeting military bases, the music festival was a target of opportunity. And they know that kidnapping civilians grants them bargaining chips against Israel. And I think it's fair to say his view on this is completely different from mine. But that's what he said. My takeaway from this is, yeah, it's terrorism. I'm sorry, that's what it is. I heard this the other day. Perhaps naive, whatever, don't know, don't care. If Hamas ushered away the civilians, stood firm on the territory and said, this land belongs to the people of Palestine or whatever it was, and engaged in a conflict directly with the Israeli military, it'd be very, very different. It would be very different. Instead, it was a target of opportunity to kill civilians. For this, the far left, we see them for who they are. This is a shift in the culture war, as I was saying. As many in the neoliberal and liberal sides are now going to have to contend with the fact that you are overtly aligned with people who proudly cheer for this in the streets. That's what's happening. Well, let's break this down. The New York Post reports a Black Lives Matter chapter in Chicago is under fire for seeming to celebrate Hamas attacks on Israeli civilians. Seeming to? They literally did. A disgusting and disgraceful social media post. The post on X, formerly Twitter, includes an image of a person paragliding with a Palestinian flag attached to its parachute with "I stand with Palestine" written beneath. BLM Chicago also posted a number of cartoons depicting somebody expressing outrage over the attacks on Israel, while another calmly lists off talking points blaming Israel for the situation. This isn't about Hamas. This is about Palestinians' right to resist 75 years of Israeli settlers colonizing their native land. And that's it. They told us who they were, what they believed and what they wanted. The Marxist, the decolonized movement, and how many corporations stood behind this. I am sickened and I am insulted, but I'm glad to see it. This is the importance of free speech. Imagine if Elon Musk said, no, we can't have this hate speech, and deleted it. No, the people must know. This is what Black Lives Matter is. And I want to give a great shout out to Amazon and Walmart and all the corporations that paraded around the BLM message when we knew for a very long time that Black Lives Matter leaders were deeply anti-Semitic. Now, of course, I don't care for the leftist tropes about how everyone on the right is Nazis or whatever. Shut up. Even the Anti-Defamation League is suspiciously mum as to the people they overtly support and the ideology they back. Jonathan Greenblatt runs the ADL. He appeared on MSNBC criticizing them, saying, this is not these are not militants, these are terrorists. Who writes these scripts? Bro, this is who you aligned with, and we warned you. Now, I am not going to come out and be like everyone who's critical of Israel's an anti-Semite. That's stupid. There are legitimate foreign policy concerns for what Israel does, what Gaza does. However, me, as just like someone who views this with cursory knowledge, I don't see any justification. None for what Hamas did. That's it. Sorry. Israel has a right to defend themselves. And just because they have the power to do so does not make them the evil aggressor. That's it. It's a war. The people on the left play this game of they're being oppressed, therefore they're in the right by whatever means necessary. Understand this, liberals. What we've all been saying for a long time. The things they've been saying about by any means necessary, they will kill. They have spray painted messages. It is a trope among the left. Liberals get the bullet too, they say. They will kill. This is what they support. And, honestly, I am so grateful for free speech. I am so grateful that they are allowed to post these things on X, on Twitter, because now we can expose them and just say, remember what we've been telling you about? It's right here. Malcolm Nance is losing it. Let me see if I have this tweet from Malcolm Nance. He says, effing delete this tweet and your account now. You may support Hamas, but not the African American community. I'm sorry, dude. There are many prominent individuals who are big fans of Farrakhan and the things he said about the Jewish people. You don't get to now all of a sudden act surprised these people harbor these views. They are hateful, evil people. He says, apparently, many of you did not notice the paraglider in the flyer that equates support of the Hamas use of paragliders at the mass murder of 260 festival goers. GD, y'all don't get it. You're showing solidarity with this unique Hamas terrorist tactic, not the Palestinian people. They don't care, dude. It's the same thing. Remarkable, man. I want to show you this tweet from Jake Tapper. Or I'm sorry, this tweet from Steve Guest about Jake Tapper telling us what many people already knew to be true for so long, finally waking up.
These last few days have been a real eye-opening period for a lot of people, a lot of Democrats, a lot of progressives, in terms of anti-Semitism on the left. A lot of people who seem more shocked at dehumanizing language used by world leaders to describe Hamas than what Hamas actually perpetrated on Saturday.
I've explained this before. What Antifa on the far left is, it is the one ring. That's identity politics. That's the far left. That's wokeness. These Democrats, these neolibs, these corporate media types thought they could wield it. A gift against our enemies. You can't control it. You can't wield it. And they knew what they were getting involved with. Abject evil. The people who laugh and celebrate death. Don't get me wrong. I've seen the videos out of New York of pro-Israel people calling for the Palestinian people to be killed. I've seen the people on Twitter saying that Israel should just wipe out Gaza. These people are not good people either. But that's not the majority. And it is an inverse. What do I tend to see? And why do I hold the positions I do? Typically, what you will get from the right is, slow down there, Democrats. How does that translate here? People like Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is obviously agitated right now. To say the least, the dude is heated, and I completely understand why, and I respect it. I certainly think that, as they often say, cooler heads prevail, and we have to be careful about getting too heated, but I totally understand it, 100%. We're looking at civilians being killed and kidnapped for bargaining chips. There's no justification for this. And I can see why Ben Shapiro is so upset about this. But guess what? Ben Shapiro still stands on the ground of innocent civilians shouldn't die. Wow. That's amazing. So when it comes to what's happening with Gaza, Ben Shapiro's position tends to be more reserved, meaning Israel doesn't want to kill civilians. Israel wants to stop Hamas. Civilians are collateral damage. That's a bad thing. It's why I don't like war and why I'm fairly anti-intervention. The U.S.'s use of military tactics in countries we are not at war with, artillery, drone strikes, etc., and it's just collateral damage, more civilians dead. BS. I don't like it. It's bad. What do you do in war? See, when the U.S. bombs, say, like a civilian restaurant in Yemen, killing an American citizen, that's evil, and Obama should be criminally charged for it. When you're directly at war and civilians die as collateral damage, it is bad. There should be an accounting for this. But war, actual declared war between an enemy combatant, is different from what Obama did in Yemen. That is to say, while I am overwhelmingly 90+% anti-intervention, I do understand the nuances of if we are, say, at war with Germany because they're executing people and invading other countries, and we target military targets and there are civilian casualties, we try to avoid civilian casualties while taking out military targets. It is a sad thing, and we all get yelled at for it. I'm not a fan of it. But I can understand war happens sometimes, and it's naive not to think you have to defend yourselves or there's conflict. It is. We should not be the aggressors. We should be more defensive. But it is complicated. It seems to be the stance of conservatives, mostly, and not absolutely, mostly, that civilian casualties in Gaza are a bad thing. It seems to be, among the far left, civilian casualties are to be celebrated. I am sickened by this. It is evil. So what is the bigger picture? Well, what I tend to see with this conflict is that Israel responds to Hamas. Hamas, the left, the Palestinian activists argue that Israel's stolen their land. I'm like, it's war. I get it. It's war. I don't see why you think you're going to win this far left by killing civilians. They don't care. They say the civilians are illegal settlers and colonizers. They view you all as evil. I don't. I don't blame some 20-year-old woman who went to a rave and was dancing because 75 years ago, a war broke out in which one side won. I do not see the strategy in killing or kidnapping 20-something-year-olds who have no idea what's going on. They don't care. You are evil. That's the absolutism of the far left that does not exist on the far right. Or I should say on the right. I shouldn't say the far right. My point is this. There are elements of the right who are pro-Israel. The reason I want to differentiate from far right is because I don't know what far right really means because these people aren't like free market capitalists. It's just like authoritarianism, whereas the left are absolutely far left economically. But there are elements of the right, as people may describe them, who are pro-Israel and extremely aggressive and evil, in my opinion. But it seems to be the tendency on the right to understand civilian casualties are a bad thing, and it seems to be the tendency on the far left to accept them. Now, there are liberals who will argue that here's the thing. Many of these liberals, like we see this from David Weissman. Let me pull this up. Yeah, he's not for what Black Lives Matter is saying, but he's pro-Israel. I've not seen the leftist pro-Palestinian with the reasonable approach to this shouldn't happen. You know, with all due respect to Max Blumenthal, who came on yesterday, he actually said Hamas is using this tactic because they want bargaining chips. He didn't go as far as to say it was good that civilians are being killed or anything like that because we would but he recognized what they were doing and the purpose of it. Okay, I think this is going to be a dramatic shift in the culture war with this clip from Jake Tapper. What will Democrats now do? I want to play this clip for you. Andy No tweets this out. Palestine celebration rally in Dearborn, Michigan. Quote, when you go to a Black Lives Matter rally, you see Palestinian flags. When you go to a white supremacy rally, you see Israeli flags. This is why I say these people are all evil. Here's the Anti-Defamation League. White supremacist leaders are openly celebrating Hamas's attack on Israel, cheering explicit depictions of violence against Israelis. What was that?
So don't let them get it twisted. This is not complicated. When you go to a Black Lives Matter rally, you see Palestinian flags. When you go to a white supremacy rally, you see Israeli flags. This is not complicated. When Zionists march down the street, they say death to Arabs. When we march down the street, we say free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. This is not difficult, everybody. So don't let them get it twisted.
You see the lies? I don't know what else to tell you. They say free, free Palestine. That's true. They also say from the river to the sea. Dude, this guy hyper-focusing on something that is not common, death to Arabs? Who's saying that? Get out of here. This is just nonsense. But let me tell you, on the left, at a Palestinian celebration rally defending Black Lives Matter, they say white supremacists support Israel. The Anti-Defamation League says white supremacists support Hamas. You see the game they play? Enough. This is a major shift in the culture war. Get ready for it, ladies and gentlemen, because they cannot maintain this. David Weissman says, I'm sure I'm losing followers because of my support for Israel, and that's fine. What goes on there is very personal to me, especially since I have family that lives there. It shouldn't be hard for anyone to condemn Hamas and Iran, who funds them. He's correct. And this is a guy who is former Trump supporter, and now he's a Democrat and all of that stuff. Yeah, man, look, I have no problem with saying it is bad, what is happening in Gaza. I do not like the situation these people live in. It is traumatic. And there are questions we have about what Israel does, especially in the West Bank. Sure. Okay. Now, just the past several days, Hamas killed civilians. Far leftists justified it. And that is abjectly evil and wrong. What am I supposed to do? You want to try and win me over and say Israel's an apartheid state. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm sorry, man. Hamas is explicitly using the tactic of killing civilians, opening fire. There's a video of people in a car and they run up and they just kill the guys. They kill the people inside. Why? Because they said it in the streets. The far left said these are evil colonizers, illegal settlements and evil colonizers. Illegal. That's what they're saying, right? Is it a joke? Look, man, let's talk logic and reason. I am born into a country. My family, for the most part, emigrated here at various times, and were not here during the early colonial period. Like, there are many Americans who descend from, colonists who came way back, obviously. Many people do. I don't know anything about what was here before. I live here now. This is my native country. I'm from here. My family is from here. My grandparents. Not all of them, actually, part Korean. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to just lay down and say, take from me everything that I have? Why? No. These leftists who are like decolonize. Do you know what they're saying when they say decolonize? They're outright saying what Hamas is doing. The civilians who are living in these homes, watering their flowers, do not fight. And many of them who are upset about the current state of affairs in Israel and want peace with Palestine, they get gunned down in cold blood. It reminds me of the scene from Game of Thrones. You may have seen it, where the Khaleesi, Daenerys Targaryen, takes over this city. And the city had slaves. So what does she do? She kills all the nobles of the slave oppressor class. Excellent writing. In one scene, a young man comes before her and says, my father was a good man. He fought against slavery. He fought to free slaves, and you killed him. Because the world is not so simple. But Daenerys was so sure that there was an oppressor and oppressed. These people are naive children, and they are malicious evil. Not every single one. Not every single one. I don't think Max Blumenthal is evil, no. Certainly not. I think there are people who are concerned about the plight of the Palestinian people. I respect that tremendously. But when it comes to what we saw, you must denounce it. There's no question. If Israel targets a media center, this was a big deal. Max brought it up. Why blow up the media center? I'm sorry, but the left lies so much. I'm going to need some context. And it's hard for me to make a strong moral stance denouncing Israel having targeted what you describe as a media center, because we know that Hamas uses civilian buildings for their weapons depots and as bases. What am I supposed to say? It's admitted. We know they do it. Now, I don't want a media center blown up. I don't want civilians targeted. But how am I supposed to believe the people who are celebrating the killing of civilians? So that's it for me, man. I don't have the answers for you because I know the far left lies about so much. Why would I believe him? I don't know. Sorry. I don't want to be involved, to be completely honest, but here we are. AOC finally breaks ranks with hateful 8 squad members. Wow. And condemns appalling anti-Semitic rallies in New York and across the U.S. as shocking footage of pro-Hamas mob mocking Jewish people with images of murdered Israelis emerge. Yeah, that's AOC. But she did try and play a kind of middle-of-the-road approach of like, we must condemn all of it. But she did say that these people do not speak for everyone. And there are people in New York who are celebrating the death of Palestinians as well. Here's the problem. Civilians should not be killed. We want to help the Palestinian people. I certainly do. I don't want war. What do I say when they celebrate what Hamas did? When people like Ben Shapiro say, we don't want to kill civilians, it's collateral damage, that it's bad, I say, well, okay, I get that. Like, what can we do to minimize civilian casualties? And he says, Israel warns the people of Gaza before the strikes. They tell them to evacuate, things like that, before they strike the targets. Sometimes civilians still get hit. And I'm like, well, I don't like it. I don't. I understand what he's saying. Then you get the left saying it is good. And I'm like, okay, that's evil. Sorry, have a nice day. But anyway, look, I said it 50 million times. I just keep saying it over and over. Look, my point is this. Democrats are going to have to wake up to the reality of what they supported. I think now we take these statements from BLM Chicago, from these leftists, and anytime one of these corporations wants to defend their crackpot ideologies like critical race theory, we just say, is that what you're supporting? Because that's what they've done. And boy, the culture war is going to shift here in a rather interesting way. This will ring on every advertisement and every political statement in 2024 that this is what the Democrats supported. And we warned them. That's it. We'll see how this plays out. I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.